Hey everyone, it's Louisa Tanner-Munson from Feel Good Astrology, and I'm really delighted. This is, I'm not sure what part this is, 3 or 4 or possibly even 5, where I've been interviewing some really amazing intuitives, interesting philosophical and spiritual thinkers, people who, from my perspective, I think offer humanity guidance, advice, a really deep listening to assist with the evolution of humanity. So these are people who I really revere and adore. So today I'm delighted to be speaking with my good friend Tania Castillo, and I kind of just want to, before we actually talk with Tania directly, I want to just add that these are times have been described in many ways, you know, recently, like the Great Awakening, the Great Unraveling, the Great Pause. You know, a lot of us have been scrabbling around trying to get meaning out of what's going on, and kind of making sense of the world that we're seeing around us right now. So I'm delighted to introduce you officially to Tania. Tania, hi, how are you?
Hi, wow, what a privilege to be on your show. And it's always so good to talk to you, because you go so deep, and I really love these opportunities. And wow, what an introduction for such a lovely experience we're gonna have.
Well, I'm really, you know, like the way we met was really through chance, wasn't it? Was it
brilliant? It was so beautiful and magical, actually.
Yeah, it was. And I always really pay attention to the introductions that I get to people who kind of magically appear in my life and have something to say, have something to share. And so, yeah, I count you as one of those people who are really powerful in holding space for humanity right now. And so I guess what I want to ask you is, what do you make of these times? You know, what's going on?
It's a really interesting question, actually, because I don't usually talk much about it, because in my choice of holding space, exactly as you have said, my choice is to hold a peaceful, safe space for the reunion of human and divine. So that requires of me coherence. And in order to remain coherent, that requires a lot of being centered in between, neither one way nor the other. So being as neutral as possible, creating that space of peace and silence, which is so relevant, and that then brings clarity to each one. So each one then will find their own clarity within that space of silence. But that being said, of course, I also have my views on the current times, which on one hand, it is absolutely amazing. I knew something was coming, like many of us knew, but I don't think we could have pictured what happened. So like the whole context that the whole world will be stopping for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever. It's just completely, it just blows our mind how something like this could come to pass. I usually say, and have said this repeatedly, we made this happen, actually. Why do I say this? Well, we made it happen on one side and on the other side. What do I mean? So the consciousness of humanity at the moment, people rushing around all the time, losing context of who they truly are, and just working for money, working for the payroll, and to buy this and that and the other and so on. The state of the world in the moment, well, that we all know about. So that, of course, would bring about sooner or later something to shake us up, to ask us, you know, what do you really want? What is it that really matters to you in your life? And the same way that that happens at a personal level with an illness or a virus of any kind, viruses, illnesses, bacteria, whatever, they come into our own personal life to make us stop, make us reassess, make us evaluate our habits. What are we doing? How are we behaving? What are we saying? What are we thinking? And but the thing is, this happened at a massive scale. So that's the amazing thing about it. And then on the other end, those of us who have been asking for change, who have been saying, you know, this way of living, it doesn't make sense. Why are people living such a senseless life? And why are we mistreating Earth? Why are we polluting so much? We need change. And actually even organized the conference last year, which was Inspiring Passion. And I can't even remember the title because it was long. But anyway, it was about sustainable change.
Yeah.
And so then, all of a sudden, from our request, you know, we request change, we breathe change, we meditate change, we breathe for peace, we breathe for expansion of consciousness, and all of a sudden the opportunity shows up. So it's not necessarily, we sometimes, we have a judgment about what's good and bad and what's right and wrong. Things don't usually show up the way we think they should, because we're not the ones making those kinds of decisions. So like the ones of us asking for change, and then on the other hand, the ones who were sleepwalking in the complete loss of sense, we all together brought this about. So it doesn't really matter to me whether it is a conspiracy or how many conspiracies there are or who's wrong or right or whatever. It was the context of the whole consciousness of humanity, of those who are awake and those who are sleeping, that brought this together in this way. Whatever it seems. So it doesn't matter whether it seems to be right or wrong. And as in everything in the world of the duality, there's always the downside and the upside, the perks and the disadvantages. So that's the way this has to be as well. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So what I'm hearing from you, Tania, is that you're talking about co-creation. Like we have co-created this. We have like created something of monumental effect, due to our inner soul yearning, and it's the sum total of the whole of humanity.
Exactly.
And in fact, it's very powerful. But our good friend Anne Burrell-Cox is saying that she's tingling with your words. I don't know if you can see that on the screen at all. But
I'm not looking at Facebook because I switched it off so it doesn't start messaging or anything.
You'll see her comments when you play this back.
I will.
I'd just like to take a step back, actually, because I realised, obviously, I'm coming at this interview with you from the fact that I already know who you are and a lot of what you're about. And I remember fondly, actually, at Christmas, you know, you and I and Pedro and Carl, and we were talking about what was likely to be happening in this next year ahead. And none of us said, oh, there'll be a pandemic and a lockdown. But for those people who listen in, I haven't actually introduced you and, you know, what you do, because you're an author, a public speaker. You've arranged some fantastic events all around the world. So tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is about who you are that allows you to kind of see beyond the veils, you know, that you can see this is a whole co-creation. How has that happened for you?
Well, at the moment, so I'm going to say what I do right now, who I am at the moment. I facilitate conscious breath mainly, and with the aim of creating this a safe space that I was talking about at the beginning, where a person can come into their home, so come back home inside and just tap into the silence. Because what I feel is that there is so much noise, not only in our own mind, but in the collective mind, that sometimes it becomes hard to discern who we truly are and what we truly want to live in our lives. And coming into that silence, into that serene lake of isness, as I call it, you can all of a sudden realize, wait a minute, is this all true? I mean, how much weight am I putting onto this? Is this really what I want for me? And you can also feel into a freedom, a release from what feels like being imprisoned. And all of a sudden you realize, wait a minute, my consciousness is not imprisoned. It is totally free. And if I tap into it, and if I use it in my everyday life, then amazing things happen, and they do. And I don't know how, and I don't need to. So what happens is I come from a world of, I was a workaholic. I used to work around 80 hours a week. I worked in the fitness industry and also as an English teacher, and also in the marketing field. And I did all of this, and I wasn't questioning myself about what was going on in my life. But all of a sudden we have these moments of awakening, and one of them was getting pregnant from my daughter. So my pregnancy just shook me up and asked me the question, who am I? And I didn't know how to answer. And so then I started a real quest. And then all of a sudden, within that quest, which started back in 2004, really, well, it started before, but the real, okay, let's dive in, started then. All of a sudden, I realized, wait a minute, I don't need to look anywhere. I just need to stay. And so after I just started staying, allowing and staying and surrendering to what I call my essence, so to the blend between human and divine. And this is a sacred partnership. It's not that one is more important than the other, because here on earth, we are all of it. And the human is not less relevant than the divine. It's a new reunion, a new one. So what I do is through my writings, which is one of my passions. I really love writing, always have, since I started when I was 5. And through my writings, through my speaking events, and through my conscious breath practice, through what I share, through my workshops, all of that, it's just sharing a place of compassion. And compassion for me is a place of complete acceptance, where we are no longer conflicting against. We are finding the way of flow. So cooperating with whatever we feel, not so much with what we think about things, about our opinion about things, because that's very volatile. It changes. It changes so much. But the inner feeling, it's so stable. That peace, that serenity, it never changes. It's always there. So for me, it's just staying there as much as possible. Of course, there are always challenges in all of our worlds, but mastery, and that's what I vouch to practice in my life and to share, and for others to practice in their own lives, being masters of their creation. Mastery for me is to be able to be coherent, 100% coherent with what you believe in. So what you believe in must be reflected in what you're living.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're just talking about it. So because I believe that staying in that serene space is what then feeds my life into existence, I do everything I can to allow that, to I make space for that in my life. And therefore, that's what I have to share with others. That's my life. So when this happened, actually, I was telling people, you know, now you guys are all living my life. Because because already a few years ago I started it always appealed to me to be a digital nomad. Yeah. And have freedom with my timetables, not have any fixed things and all that. And a few years ago, I started looking into it and, you know, how can I just pass my work onto a mostly online-based space so that I can have the freedom to be anywhere I want to be and to be with anyone I want to be with at any moment if they have an internet connection. And so I live a very monastic life, as I call it. So very secluded. I don't get into too many conversations. I really choose what I want to talk about and who I want to talk with. So my life is basically this, that people are now living, you know, the having to staying at home more often, valuing that space of being at home. But it's been wonderful because now we've done even more stuff at home, like create our beautiful vegetable garden and take care of stuff that was hanging around because now everyone else had to stay home as well. Yeah. And so, you know, I say now, hopefully you will see the value in the people you have in your life, the closest ones, the ones that live in your space, in the place where you live. You will nurture it, you will love it, and most of all, your body, which is the house of your human and divine, which is the house of you in this lifetime. So, you know, just instead of complaining about the situation, try and find how it is serving you, how it can serve you. So basically now everyone has been made to stop.
Yes, very much so. My goodness. Yeah. And like you, our life hasn't changed too much because our life was premised on home. We both consider ourselves to be digital nomads, and we're homesteaded and homeschooling as well with our family. So it's not really changed our life so much. Only our garden has got better, and we've now got chickens as well.
Yeah, we've got some of those too.
I'm really enjoying watching them. They're fascinating creatures to watch. So I'm getting that your practice hasn't changed too much since.
No, not really.
Because you're already doing the stuff that you're doing. What about the people that you've been working with? What are you noticing?
Well,
changes that are going on with the people that you're working
Interestingly enough, the people that I'm working with were really happy to have to stay at home. They were finding it quite interesting to have that opportunity because the people I work with, I keep on saying, you know, just give yourself time, slow down a little bit, you know, take a little bit more time for you, find space each day to be with yourself, even not doing anything, just stay in like a silent space for a few minutes. You don't even need to make it an hour or two, you know, but find that space with yourself. And so I've been, of course, sharing this for a long time. And now all of a sudden, everyone had this opportunity to really do that, you know? Yes. And then, wow, this is amazing. I don't even know if I want to go back to work afterwards. Because
I'm lots of people that don't want to, you know, that actually have found the gift in what's been going on.
And for instance, my weekly conscious breath meditation sessions used to be, some people used to come in physically and other people used to be online, and now everyone is online. And all of a sudden people are saying, you know, it's even better because now I can, if I have the time, I can just stay for a while. I don't need to, you know, go away after the session, and I can, if the person's at home, I can be lying on my bed, and I don't need to spend any petrol or anything. I mean, I don't need to move to enjoy this experience. So people are looking at what this is bringing about that is serving them more than before, and lots of people are going to make big changes in their lives due to what has happened. They're going to change a lot of practices. Also, they are now more aware of self-respect, especially, for instance, in the work field, of being respected.
Yes, yeah, I'm hearing that. I'm feeling that, definitely. Okay, so you've shared your thoughts about what's going on and the effects it's having on people. If you were to share one piece of advice right now with someone who maybe is feeling fearful about their future, how could you? What advice would you give to them?
So I do realize that there are many people living very, very hard situations and going through also a lot of economic downfall, you know, feeling completely lost. Then again, no matter how lost we are, there is always a way. And everyone knows this. We all intrinsically know that no matter how lost we might feel, sooner or later the solution will come up. So my advice is, instead of feeding the fear with your worry, with feeling so lost that you can't find ground to put your foot onto, accept the situation as it is. Accept it fully and totally. Don't fight against it. Because the more you fight against it, the more it will fight back. Because that is just the nature of energy. If you fight against it, it will be a fighting energy. So it will be fighting back. You will be getting exactly what you're putting into it. And for people who are in a really, really, really difficult situation, ask yourself the question, what is the worst thing that can happen to me and my family? And be very honest and clear about that. You know, because if you go to that place and you really face it, you're not running away from it, you're being real, then you can build up from there. Now, if you're all la-di-da and you know everything's going to be okay and so on, you're pretending. I mean, if your life is just going down the gutter, don't pretend it isn't. That's a really very important piece of advice I would like to leave here. Be real with yourself. Be honest. Don't pretend everything's going to be okay when you're feeling terrible and when everything is falling apart. Face it. Like any other feeling, emotion, whatever, it can only be transcended when you face it, when you look it in the eye. Because when you look it in the eye, then you start realizing it isn't as strong as it seems. That's the whole point. Fear isn't as big as it seems when you face it. Then all of a sudden you start seeing, wait a minute, I'm blowing this out of proportion. And nowadays, in the world we live in at the moment, there is a lot of solidarity. And no one will be starving to death, at least not in what we call evolved countries, because people are now also having the opportunity of awakening through helping each other, through connecting, through realizing, wait a minute, there are other people who aren't in such a good situation. Maybe I could do something to help. And this is happening also at a massive scale. And this is also another good thing when so-called bad things happen. That bringing up this spirit in people. But then going also, I would leave another piece of advice, going beyond the need to look at people as victims. If you're considering that someone is in a bad situation, they are a victim, you're only feeding their victimhood. You're keeping them in the victim space. That's not the point. The point of helping out is not necessarily keeping people in their victim state. Like, poor me, you know, what am I going to do now? No. Wait a minute. Okay, the situation is bad at the moment, but let's find a way. Let's find a way out. Because there is always a solution. Nothing stays the same. In physical reality, one of the most important truths is that this too shall pass. No matter whether it is fantastic or whether it is terrible, nothing is permanent. So that's another thing I'd like to share is if you stay in your center, if you don't know how to do that, well, just take a deep breath and stay with the breath. And that's all. And just find the equanimity in your breath and staying in that. Realize that not even two breaths are the same. Everything is changing all the time. So your fear that was generated here is already not even real here because you're not there anymore. You're always somewhere else. Keeping this very clear to us. So first of all, facing it. Going deep down into how bad can it get and facing it. But then not concentrating on making that really bad outcome happen. No, okay, I know that this is realistic and it could come to pass. Now, what do I really want? Where do I really want to be? And usually people were very focused on huge things like, you know, getting a bigger house or a bigger car or taking their kids to Disneyland. I don't know, whatever. Focus on the small things, you know. We don't need that much. Life can be lived in a simple way that is fulfilling. And then when you feel fulfilled, when you don't feel that fear anymore, when you feel safe, okay, you can start building up from there. But why get so lost in having to have more and more is my question. Because that's what brought us to this state right now. So, yeah, those are the things I'd really like to leave here.
That is absolute magnificent advice. And I can see the absolute merit in it completely. That was just fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
The simplicity and the grace with which you've expressed that, I think, could be like pulled out of this video and shared, you know, just like this little 5-minute part. It can just be shared far and wide. I totally agree with Carl's also saying hola to you, by the way. And we've got another comment, actually. I'd just like to read it out from Anne Beryl Cox, who's been listening all the way through this. She said, many threads are weaving together. Grateful for these beautiful words. So, yeah.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you very much.
One thing that I've noticed a lot is often we have these fears and we're very reluctant to face them because we're a little scared of what we might see.
Afraid of fear.
Yes, yeah, we're afraid of them. And I'm relating to my own fears here. I've often put them on a shelf, you know, that I notice them. They're always in my room. They're always in my living room on this kind of shelf, always looking down on me. They're always part of my reality because I put them on the shelf because I can't face them. But I'm always aware they're there, just waiting for that magic moment when they can realize.
When they can come in and say, okay, is it now?
Yeah. And you're always like at the back of your mind thinking, that fear is going to fall off the shelf in a minute. You know, it's going to come and trip me up. And when I've actually sat with the fear and thought, well, actually, what is this fear going to do to me? Where is it going to take me? What's the worst? Just exactly the process you've described. When I look it straight in the eye, I just realized there is also another program going on within me. And one of them is this almost like an unwillingness or unpreparedness to consider change.
Yeah.
usually to deal with our fears, it might involve a certain amount of yielding to other circumstances. And one of the things that I've learned now, after quite a few fearful situations going on, is actually that the whole process of transformation and yielding to things that we're afraid of usually brings up a far greater level of coherence, like you're talking about, and congruency in who we really are. It really takes us to the core of who we are and allows that to just come out. It gives it the space for the, to use your words, the isness of ourselves, our spirit, to just
come in and hold us, and the thing is, we usually tend to not want to receive that loving embrace, because it totally dismantles the other truth that everything's not okay. Because if you receive that embrace, all of a sudden everything's okay. No matter what's going on, it's okay. Deep down, you know that. One thing I've realized that many people are coming to the awareness of is stop procrastinating.
Okay.
Why? Because, there's so many things that people were to have done before this happened, and they didn't do it because they were going to do it sometime in between all of this. And then they couldn't do it because of all of the situation that's come up.
Yeah.
And some things were really life-changing, relevant, important conversations that needed to be had, moves that needed to be made, changes like job changes, whatever. And then all of a sudden, all hell sets loose, and what's going to happen? So, procrastination is one of the surest ways of lack of self-respect and of not honoring our energy and our consciousness. Because the only thing it does is it makes us go around in loops, always thinking that, oh, another time is better than this one, and feeling there's something missing all the time. And I mean, what's missing is just living. You have something to do it. Live it now. When I travel, this happens repeatedly. Like you go to a place and then you think, oh, I'll come back later to do whatever. And then you never do, because then, life moves on. So
yes, it does, doesn't it?
just do it now. You got someone to talk to that you really have something important to say. Call that person now, today. It doesn't need to wait, because all of these things, they make such a difference in what happens in our lives, in the way we materialize, in the way money comes in, and all sorts of other kinds of abundance. It really influences what we're receiving from our life, because we're just putting it on hold. What are we telling energy when we procrastinate? We're telling it, don't serve me, I don't need you.
Yes, I'm really hearing that loud and clear now. That is perfect. Yes.
So that many people really fell with a huge wah with that realization. I'm not going to procrastinate ever again.
I can see we've got one more comment. So, I've got a message from someone else actually that's living in Portugal. This is from Owen Lloyd Martin. He's saying, resonating so much today. Thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you, Owen. Thank you very much.
If someone wanted to contact you and find out more about the amazing work that you're doing, how could they reach out to you, Tania? How would you?
So I've got a website called inpassioncoaching.com. And my page on Facebook is the same name. And so you can send me a message on my page or send me an email. It's info@inpassioncoaching.com. And it's not coaching, by the way, just so to make it clear. Like when I gave it the name, I didn't even really know exactly what coaching was, but it sounded good. So I would say it's It's business mentoring. That's how I like to call it.
Mentoring. I love that. I'm writing that down because I'm going to put this on the video footnotes. That it's business mentoring. That's very powerful. I love that. Thank you very much, Tania.
So
okay, well, I've absolutely adored speaking with you today. Thank you so very much.
Me too. Thank you for inviting me. Such a wonderful conversation.
Well, it's always really nice to meet with you, however that occurs. So thank you so much. And I'd love to thank all the listeners that have listened in live today, and to all our re-listeners. This is going to be made into a podcast to go on Spotify. It will also be posted on YouTube and Facebook. So this is going to be used and shared as far and as wide as we can do. So thank you so much to all my re-listeners.
Thank you.
If this has really resonated with you, please do feel free to contact either of us. You can reach me at louisa@feelgoodastrology.com. If you're interested in more, then stick around. I'll be interviewing Mr. Chris Paradox this afternoon, and I've got many, many more amazing people just like Tania that I'm going to be having conversations with. Anyway, lots of love to you wherever you are in the world. We have both been coming to you from Portugal, haven't we? In different places, but all from Portugal. Much love. Bye for now.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.